All right, welcome to Liquid Lunch. It's Monday. We all made it in here today despite the big storm over the weekend. And today didn't start out that nice, but we're here. We're all here. Sue's here.
From the wilds of Newmarket.
I can't believe you made it down here even on time.
I'm a toughie.
And of course, it's Vegan Mondays, right? Which is
You can count on vegans.
yes. I'll call to veganism. That's what we're doing today. And we're going to start the show with Michael and Toni Abramson from Yamchops.
The Yamchops lady and the Yamchops guy.
Yeah, great to have you here. You got some food and it looks amazing. Really looking forward to trying this stuff today.
Great.
And you've got a butcher shop, right? On
That's right.
College Street near Montrose, which is a great part of town. How long have you had that place for?
We opened Yamchops 4 years ago this summer, and didn't know what the heck we were doing at the time, quite honestly, having come from an ad agency background and not really a food background, but kind of knowing that we needed to do something in plant-based food.
Yeah.
And at 60, we weren't about to do a restaurant, so it was what's missing.
Yeah,
And-
so we chose another business in the food business. Let me tell you, not any easier.
Yeah, it was a bit of a discovery, especially in a city like Toronto, where there's some great vegan options already, certainly in the restaurant sector and stuff. The question was, what was missing? And when we looked around, what we discovered was that what was missing was your center of the plate protein that you could get that was plant-based, right? So where could you go that you could say, I'm not buying a piece of chicken or a piece of meat at the grocery store, but I'm getting a chicken schnitzel that
Which are
is
very good,
plant-based.
by the way. They're
And
excellent.
so we thought that really what we needed to do was have a vegan butcher shop.
No, is this a new idea, like a first?
It's a
Actually,
new
we
idea.
are the original in North America, so we were the first plant-based butcher in North America. There was, and they still exist. There is one in Holland. Am I correct?
Yes.
In Holland, not so much like we are. They're a frozen product, but ours is fresh. Prepared food, ready to go.
And do you guys make it yourself?
We make
do,
it
yeah.
ourselves. We eat it ourselves.
Wow.
We serve it ourselves. Yeah, it's all ours.
Can we just show it? It looks actually great.
Thank you.
I mean, when you were, we were in the kitchen, Michael, and you were opening those containers, and my mouth started to water.
Hey,
He's already tying on
You know?
the bib.
so
Yeah.
you want to introduce what we have there?
Yeah.
And I can't wait to hear the whole Yamchops story.
Oh,
And
happily.
don't forget to mention about online. Because I
Happily.
want people to know about the online order.
Okay.
So what you have here is General Tao's chicken, and when I say chicken, this is a protein that has a meat-like texture, but it is a plant-based protein that is a pea and soy protein, and has an amazing chew to it, and of course the sauces and flavors are all products that Michael has developed over 40
Well, that's
years.
what makes the taste of meats anyway.
It really
are
does.
the,
It
the
is, yeah.
plants that you season them with,
Yeah.
right?
Here we have our Szechuan beef that we became quite famous for after we were on Dragon's Den, because we served the Dragon Szechuan beef, which was pretty amazing. And then here we have our jackfruit ribs. These are like a seitan product with jackfruit in them as well. And jackfruit is an amazing... Have you ever seen a jackfruit? It's the ugliest looking
Wait, no.
Caribbean fruit. that you'll
Smelliest,
have-
slimiest.
Wait a second.
slimiest. Yeah.
Is it the smelly one?
It's this. No, I think you
It's
think.
not, no, it's not that
There is
smelly.
another one. There is another one that's smellier.
Yeah, but it has this
Wow, I'm
fibrous
so
texture.
hungry
Yeah,
now.
no, I'm really sorry. Honestly, it has an amazing fibrous texture that lends itself to substituting meat.
For meat.
So
So-
we do like a pulled pork with jackfruit, right? That
We
is pretty
added
amazing.
to our
It's
ribs
amazing.
to give it some
Yeah.
buoyancy, if you will.
And then over here we have our chicken shawarma, which happens to be also a gluten-free product. So we do offer some gluten-free items to our guests as well. And it has a Ras El Hanout spice on it, and our garlic tzatziki, which is also
I was just going to
vegan.
say, is that my favorite?
It
The
is.
garlic?
It is.
I
Got
love
garlic?
that stuff.
It's real garlic, yes.
Real garlic.
We harmed the garlic in the process, yes. I can't say that no garlic was harmed. And then here, this is my all-time favorite. This is our crab cake, our crabless crab cake, and it's made with an organic, non-GMO tofu. that's shredded with some amazing herbs and spices and our chipotle mayo on top. So dig in and have some fun.
I've tried
not-
everything except the
course.
I
barbecue.
actually cheated, you know.
Oh,
tried
I
some?
already cheated a little.
Oh, good. Thank
as he
you.
wipes the barbecue sauce off his lips, right?
I had some of the chicken and the general
General Tao's?
cow chicken.
Great. Well, thanks.
Now what? Come on, Sue, have some too.
So all of these obviously are here for you to eat and here available at Yamchops for you to take home and warm up and serve to your family. And they're also in our new cookbook. So our cookbook actually launches.
Oh, do you have a cookbook
We
coming
have
out?
amazing. We did.
You almost forgot to say.
We were gonna get to that. Let me just hold it up because it's not out yet.
Well, we don't have it. It
Right.
launches on the 17th officially.
And that's gonna be at Yamchops.
It's going to be at Yamchops. It's on Amazon. It's going to be in major booksellers.
That's Szechuan beef.
And
So you
all of our recipes, or not all of our recipes, but a number of our recipes that's made the store famous, they're in the cookbook.
So while you're eating, I'll tell you a little story. So we owned an ad agency for 27 years prior to this, and many of our clients were in the food sector. And Michael, because he's been eating plant-based for 40 years, took it upon himself to learn how to cook and to do it really well. And so we would have people come to our home all the time
luck,
and have amazing meals with us. And people just kept encouraging him and saying, you really need to do something in food, you really need to do something in food. And so about 10 years before we sold, he kind of approached me and said, I'm going to need to do something in food. I thought, shh, I could be retired on a beach somewhere and
see, I knew I
yoga in
needed-
the morning and getting my nails done
You
in
were
the afternoon.
this
but
close to freedom.
I needed a lot of
55,
lead
right?
Gonna
time.
happen.
I had to start 10 years ago. I needed the lead time with her. I know her really well.
Yeah. So, so in the meantime, while we were still running our agency, he went and got a number of accreditations, plant-based accreditations, including something very unique called Cordon Vert, which he got in England. And it was kind of like being on one of those Master Chef shows where they just like give you a box of ingredients and say, figure it out kind of thing, right? Yeah. So it was pretty cool.
Really, you had to figure it out.
I mean, that was a number of our assignments. I mean, it was a course as well, but many of our assignments were black box assignments that we had to figure out. Some of my, I won't call them my favorites, but some of the most interesting is they would actually give us the recipe for what they wanted us to make, but they wouldn't give us any quantities. So that was kind of yummy. We knew the ingredients that went in, but we didn't know if it was a cup or a teaspoon, you know. Very, very interesting assignments, and I learned a tremendous amount. And next to the name Yamchops, Cordon Vert is such a brilliant name. So I have to give props for that as well.
So he did that for a couple of years prior to doing the transition and selling our ad agency, and then it was that piece about what is it that we're going to do, because we're both in our 60s, and we just knew we didn't have the energy for a restaurant life at this point in our
We
in
go
our
to bed at
lives.
9 o'clock. So.
I mean, we have young grandchildren, and we wanted to have a life outside of work. We thought that was really stupid.
So much for
idea.
that.
Totally
Really, eh?
stupid, yeah. So that's where this idea of the butcher shop was conceived, and really understanding that that was the biggest challenge that a lot of people that are looking to reduce their meat intake have. It's where do I get that thing that I put in the middle of my plate that replaces meat? And so we began to look at how we could answer that for people. And that's where, come with the marketing background we had, Yamchops was a great name, and we really wanted to kind of
It
play
is a
on
very
that
clever name.
juxtaposition
Very
of lamb chops, yam chops, and people stand outside our door and go, a butcher shop, a vegan butcher shop.
It's astounding.
That's like an oxymoron. That doesn't work, right?
We
Like, what's wrong with
regularly
that
see
picture,
people
right?
standing out there taking pictures of our sign. They don't come in, but they're taking pictures of our
But you're
sign.
famous on Instagram.
And then 20 minutes
right.
later, we see it on Instagram. It's just,
Wow.
come in and we'll feed you.
Yeah.
You know, I just have to say that I'm eating this food over here. I've sampled
I'm
everything.
actually going to share some with other people. That's why I stopped.
Well, we've got a
Well,
lot
I'm
in the
not gonna
kitchen
eat it all
too.
now
Okay.
either, but I just have to say that it really is, like, for people that are looking for meat, like, that meat thing, right?
Yeah.
In terms of taste, in terms
Do
of
it.
texture, in terms of everything, it's amazing.
Thank you.
Thanks so
Thanks.
Like, and you guys figured out all this stuff. It's amazing.
much. Well, Toni was my tester for many, many, many
you poor
years
thing,
prior to
you.
Yamchops.
Poor
20 pounds heavier, yes.
We
now
had,
than I was, yeah.
I guess one of our favorite stories is I just had to I took it upon myself that I had to come up with a lox recipe. I wanted to replicate smoked salmon. So I figured carrots are the right color. I sliced them thin enough. I should be able to get it to the right texture. She came home and she gave me the gears for hours.
What the hell are you doing?
Well,
It's
I
not-
mean-
there's no way it's going to work like this.
We
It's just
had
never
one
gonna
of-
be okay.
One of our few major
40 years
fights.
together.
Yeah, really,
That's
40 years
fair.
ago. So I just told her to get out. Not that nice, but I told her to get out. And like a couple hours later, we were eating carrot lox on a bagel that would
With
make
the
any
cashew
Jewish
cream
grandmother
cheese
proud.
underneath, and it was just like,
It was crazy. And
it was
And
crazy.
you had the
It
proverbial
was-
egg on
it was
your face
exactly-
then,
was
right?
it-
Precisely.
It has
Had to-
the flavor, like
Yeah.
the smoky flavor of lox.
Right.
It's got the
It
texture.
has a great texture. Now, you're not, if you've eaten lox,
You don't
great
have the
salmon lox,
fishiness.
you don't have that strong fishy taste, but it certainly had the smoky taste. He had capers on it, and everything about it was a taste experience that you would not feel
compromised
compromised.
at all.
And
You
even
guys
if it
come
didn't
back-
taste exactly like that, it was delicious, right?
If you guys come back, can you bring some of that?
Sure.
Absolutely,
Come on once a month.
absolutely, we'll be happy to. Yeah, it's a
I mean, you
popular
got the
item.
fishy taste in the crab
crab
cake.
Okay,
cake,
that's
right.
done. I mean, simply nori. We use seaweed to do that.
okay.
So
Giving away all your,
I
well, you
look-
gave them
it's
all
in the
away in the
cookbook.
cookbook
It's in the
anyway,
cookbook,
right?
yeah.
a little bit of fishless fish sauce and nori.
You were just talking about fish sauce this
We
morning.
were
I said I
just
had
talk-
fishless
Oh,
fish
no?
sauce in
That's
my...
right. We were talking about fish sauce earlier. Another synchronicity.
There you go.
Don't give away too many secrets, right? Or it's going to be crickets and tumbleweeds outside of Yamchops. Hardly. I doubt it. Hardly.
You know,
I doubt it.
I'm one of those people that loves watching the cooking shows on TV, and I kid you not, I never cook.
Exactly.
Because he does. Why would I bother,
just think
right?
this would be great having in the cupboard and just
That's it. Yeah,
ooh,
that's it.
at all the pictures and dreaming about
Yeah.
maybe one day trying.
It's actually, a lot of the recipes are not that challenging, which is great. It makes it easy for like just anyone
how do
who's
you
got.
know? You haven't cooked
I-
anything in
I-
20
I
years.
know because I've watched you do it. I just watch you. That's good enough for me.
you work up a sweat watching them.
Really?
clean
So
up.
she
What
cleans-
else do you need?
Well, that's the organizational
Yeah.
compromise. She
I
cleans.
clean up, yeah. Honestly, we were talking earlier, and I was saying this has definitely been the hardest thing we've ever done in our life.
But absolutely the most
amount-
rewarding
yeah,
as
the most
well.
rewarding.
Effort.
The amount
Absolutely.
of work, the energy behind it, but by far it's the legacy piece. Like it is the most rewarding thing we've done. We have become leaders in this sector, and
you
our
are.
people that are turning to us from all over the world to talk about what we've done and what the experience has been and how it's changing the way people look at their food intake.
Or to talk about
And-
opening a
or to
location.
talk about opening a location.
Absolutely.
I keep looking at that
crazy.
franchise button. I told
Well,
you.
we do
that
have
I-
we do have a number of new locations coming. We're in the process of finding physical locations, but we have 2 more in Toronto, 2 in Edmonton, and 2 in Vancouver opening up.
Well, and
Wow.
you're not bricks and mortar either. You also have your online ordering as well, which is I
Yeah,
take
so pretty
advantage
much
of.
everything you want to enjoy at the store, pick up at the store, you can order online and we deliver across the country, which is making ourselves accessible to everyone that can't physically come into our
So
location.
that's yamchops.com for anybody who doesn't know.
Absolutely,
As
please.
well as our butcher counter items, we also have full grocery at Yamchops, full vegan grocery, so you don't have to read any labels. You just know everything is fully vegan. Those products are also available online.
The part that was for me the most fascinating, we knew first of all that if we opened up a store and we appealed only to vegans and vegetarians, that we might not survive because that's still a small segment
It's still
of
only
the
7%,
population, right?
yeah.
And so our job really was to create an environment where everyone was welcome and where we would give a taste. We're kind of like the Baskin and Robbins of vegan butchery, if you will. And you can come in and have a taste, and like if you can put it on a fork, you can taste it basically.
Little toothpick or-
And the idea is to invite everyone to come and have an experience and realize that it isn't a compromise, that you can eat well, it's palatable, it's flavorful, and you can replace your meat protein from time to time or as often as you like. And so, and especially after we aired on Dragon's Den, we saw our numbers shift. And I would tell you that 40% of our clientele are vegan and vegetarian, 60% are flexitarian. So
That's
there are people
amazing.
still consuming meat, but are making a conscientious choice to consume less. And if we've achieved that, I feel that we've really crossed a huge divide. Like we've done something that has people thinking about what they're eating.
Yeah. The seed planters here.
Yeah.
Now, have
Okay.
you guys always been vegans?
43 years for me. I was long before the curve happened. In the early days, for me, I was just telling the guys in the back room, for me, watching this transition over 4 decades, it actually brings tears to my eyes.
Yeah.
That we're creating
you
foods
cry, I'm
that-
going to cry.
Yeah,
so
really.
just,
I
keep
won't.
it together.
I
hold
won't.
it
I
together.
won't say anything about the bucket list. I promise.
Yeah.
Yeah. To get to this level now, where we're replicating the mouthfeel and we're replicating flavors of, so the people who are meat eaters aren't meat eaters. They're coming in, and no matter how ardent they are in the meat eating world, they're coming in and they're loving our products. It brings tears to your eyes. Toni.
Yeah, I'm
lot
more
less.
vegetarian at this point, quite honestly. I was flexitarian for a very long time. In the last 5-6 years, I'm veg, I would say. I still haven't given up
She's
cheese
getting there.
altogether.
Well,
But
certainly,
he's down there.
certainly since we opened Yamchops, she's gone
Yeah.
vegan.
But it's such a
It's not a compromise.
it's not a compromise. Like I think that's what's really been mind-boggling to me. There are so many great people doing beautiful foods that are vegan foods. A lot of young entrepreneurs that are really putting together products that are sustainable, but more importantly, even
They're
like
delicious.
like
Yeah.
whether
So-
you're vegan or not.
Let me ask you, because this stuff is like it has that feel, the taste, everything is great about it. Is it? Can you just talk about the health aspects of it? Like, is it all just to taste good and look good, or is it
No.
got some health?
So
qualities?
absolutely, it's not.
Very
all-
good question.
It is. It's a great question. So, first off, I'll say the most common question after "What the heck is a plant-based butcher?" The most common question we get is, "Where do you get your protein?" All of our proteins are higher in protein value than an equivalent amount of meat product.
So this chicken product that you had, if you were to have 100 grams of that, which is about the size of a chicken breast,
serving,
has
yeah.
26 grams of protein, and a chicken breast has 20 grams of protein. So the protein conversation is not a difficult
We actually have
one.
greater protein content, which also goes to the number of professional athletes and weightlifters that are assuming vegan diets, and they're performing at levels that are unsurpassed in the past.
And they're eating clean.
And they're eating clean. Now, I will say we do use some sweetener products. We use agave. These
Maple
are
syrup,
things,
yeah.
maple syrup. They're on the cleaner side of sugars, but there's still a sweetener in there because people like flavor. So we're not marketing ourselves as wholesome raw. We're marketing ourselves as vegan, clean, and flavorful. And that's what we
So
come
some of the
across.
sauces are richer than others, but in general, the proteins are very clean proteins and healthier for you. So a soy and pea protein, these are non-GMO organic bases that we're working with.
Well, and let's
It's
face it, a
just a
plant
choice.
over a dairy product, which is going to be
Well-
healthier, right?
I mean, in that comparison, there's no question.
Yeah.
When we're doing a vegan mayo or a vegan milk, they're clean. I mean, there's no steroids. And they're yummy. They're yummy. Yeah. So they're clean. But 100% health, we can't take that claim.
So, sorry, when did you open again?
We opened
June
in
of
June of
2014.
2014.
And so you've been around for
4
few
years this June.
already,
Yeah.
and first in North America,
First in North America.
and now expanding across the country.
Yeah.
What about in the U.S. or that?
We've
What's
had
next?
requests from the U.S. That is next. We have partners out of Vancouver that are looking at the LA or the California market. We're not 100% set on LA. We'd love to be in the States. The other thing that we'd love to do is get our food production to a level that we're not behind. Right now we're behind. We're having trouble supplying our store with our own product. We're getting 6 locations here, so we just need to up our our production content a bit.
Amazing. So let me just ask you, so when you go to a butcher, Not that I've ever been in
Yes.
one.
I've actually never been to a butcher in my life, even though I grew up eating meat. but-
So let's just imagine what it might be like to go into a butcher shop
Okay.
for a minute.
Okay.
You see the meat there,
Yeah.
right? And you get, I don't know, but it's not cooked, right? You
Right,
gotta
right.
take it home, and then you apply a recipe to it,
Right.
right? Oh, we're gonna make whatever we're gonna make, right? Like, is that the same with, like, you've got the cookbook now, which is amazing.
Right.
Do you show people how to make these meats,
No.
or do you give recipes on how people can use these meats to create
How to
great
dress your
dishes?
meat.
Ours are actually prepared products. So when you buy Szechuan beef, you're buying Szechuan beef. You take it home, you warm it up, and you serve it.
Right.
When you're buying the jackfruit ribs, you're buying the ribs. So we're not doing raw product that you take home and sauce yourself. We do sell some of that in our grocery section, but in our butcher counters, they're prepared foods.
Think of it like a deli counter, right, where you're buying like your corned beef or whatever. It's like it's the same kind of idea. The meat is already dressed,
Yeah.
and you can take it home and warm it up. There are a couple of products like burgers that we make that you have to go home and cook.
I cook from scratch. Yeah.
But there's not much else to do. It's like
So
put
then
them in a
what
pan
does
or
the
on the grill.
cookbook do then?
The
Well,
cookbook tells you how to make Szechuan beef. Yeah,
Oh,
so
oh,
you
from,
can
like, raw-
you
from-
can actually, so first of all you would make the beef, which is the seitan product, and then the
What-
sauce and the cooking procedure.
Okay, that's that word again. Seitan.
Seitan, yeah.
Hail
Does-
Satan.
Yeah. The devil made us do it. So seitan's, it's the standard for fake meat right now. So it's a vital wheat gluten, typically with a lighter flour like a chickpea flour, sometimes an almond flour, made into a dough and things added. Like in our case, we add jackfruit to the ribs. In the cookbook, there's what's in the cookbook? I think we have our
This
Korean
is your
bar.
crowning glory.
Yeah, really.
Korean barbecue chicken. I think.
Our Korean barbecue
Oh, I
ribs
love
are
that one.
are in the cookbook.
Oh,
So
they're great.
the cookbook gives you, here's how to make the seitan ribs, and here's how to make the sauce, and then here's how to combine them.
Is the schnitzel in there?
Schnitzel is in there, as a matter of fact, yeah.
Oh, you like schnitzel, don't you?
I like the schnitzel. Ja.
Yeah, it's funny, I was
love it.
saying in the back, I mean, the cookbook for me is an absolute bucket list item.
Yeah,
I mean,
very
I have wanted this for decades. I mean, long before Yamchops, and.
You got very emotional in the back.
I
and then
really
got
did,
emotional,
because
and we were a wreck. the
my
pair of us.
mother used to always say, "Mikey, you need to do a cookbook. Mikey, you need to do a cookbook," and she didn't see the cookbook,
Oh, no.
but here it is. You know,
It's here.
It's done.
Amazing. So now you're gonna have a launch this.
We have a
Thursday.
launch. We have a private event to launch the cookbook on the 19th, but it goes public on the 17th. So, I mean, many people have pre-ordered already, but it's going to be available in bookstores and available at Yamchops as of the 17th. As of tomorrow.
Definitely
Yeah.
buying it.
Yeah, as of tomorrow.
It's
Wow.
going to sit on my countertop, so
So
I
wait.
probably won't use it, but it looks nice.
I'm just gonna hold it up again. So,
Let me pass it over to you.
yeah, thank you. So where could people get this book besides probably at your store?
So
I'm
right
guessing.
now it's only available on Amazon.
Okay.
So Amazon.com, Amazon.ca. Like we said, we're
It's
such
amazing.
children because we sit there and we look at where's the cookbook available? Oh, it's available in Hong Kong. Oh, it's available in Taiwan. Oh, it's available in Denmark. You know,
That's exciting.
Well,
You're not
I mean,
like
it's
children.
exciting,
You're
but we're
proud,
just-
and you're.
so
this is a great
I drive her
achievement.
nuts. I drive her absolutely nuts. So right now it's available only on Amazon, but as I
Only
say,
on Amazon.
as of the
Yeah.
17th, it's available.
Never heard of Amazon.
Major bookstores in Canada and the U.S.
That's amazing.
as well as at Yamchops.
Amazing.
And then we are launching it private event on the 19th at Yamchops.
So we can't publicize that really, right?
You can't, no, but you
Don't come.
You got an invitation.
Yeah.
You got an invitation, so you can come.
Great. Well, this has been great, you guys. Look at the stuff here. It's fantastic.
Thank you.
So there's the book. Yamchops.com is the website, right?
Correct.
And I mean, it's just great. I'm gonna dig in again as soon as we sign off the air here, guys. So So thanks for coming in today.
Thanks
It
for
was
having us.
absolutely a pleasure.
Thanks
Thank you
for
very
feeding
much.
everybody, the whole
Yeah.
crew. Everybody.
Absolutely a
else
pleasure.
today. It's awesome.
Everyone was excited that you guys were
That's,
coming.
that's what we do, you know? We'll feed you once a month, whatever you want.
Okay, great. Okay, well, we're going to take a little break here. We got lots more coming up. Camille Labchuk is up next, animal justice lawyer. And, we're
And
gonna
maybe
continue.
Joanne McArthur sitting with her together. We don't know if they
yeah,
want to
we-
go together or what.
And
they
then
will
Mr.
do.
Lahey will be on later. in the
Mr.
show,
Lahey.
Right?
Quite, you know, I just have to say that we are flattered to be with this company. I mean, just, this is
Some
the
good
group.
people
This
doing
is an
some
amazing
really
group
good
of
work.
people you have on.
Well, this is all Sue's doing, so.
And
she's
congratulations
one.
on the show, by the way.
Well, thank you.
Thank
Well,
you.
guys, great to meet you. Thanks for
you.
coming in, and now we're going to dig in
Yeah.
to some of this food, and we're going to set up the next interview. So just
Forgot
stay
my
tuned.
lunch bag and my cold pack.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, we're back here on the show. It's me, Hugh Seuss here. Now we have
Still.
Camille Labchuk, an animal justice lawyer, right, Camille?
That's right.
And we have Joanne McArthur, a photojournalist, right? We even got some
Yes.
books, right? We Animals.
That's
There's
the
one
first
of them.
book, 2014.
Yeah. And there's another one, Captive.
This is the new book, 2017.
We were looking at this one earlier, the bear, the sad bear
Yes.
and the wooden bear behind him. Where's this picture taken?
That is in Copenhagen, actually. I spend a lot of time at that zoo because it's a very big modern zoo, and I wanted to be the annoying fly buzzing around the heads of even the biggest and best zoos in the world, saying it's, there's still a long way to go.
So, now do you guys work together?
Well,
Yeah, we collaborate pretty often. We have separate organizations. So through Animal Justice, I'm an animal rights lawyer, and we go to court. We fight for stronger laws. We try to ensure that the laws that are on the books are enforced as well. But part of what we do, a big part of it, is educating people about what goes on and why Canada has some of the worst animal cruelty laws in the Western world. And we rely really heavily on photojournalism, on video pieces, on multimedia produced by people like Joanne to show people what the reality of what happens to animals in zoos, on farms, in aquariums, in all industries.
And also Kevin, who's coming up, he would be someone who would be very helpful to you.
That's right. Undercover investigators have played just a tremendous role, especially I would say in the last decade. We've seen more and more of these investigative pieces coming out where people get jobs in factory farms, in other industries where animals are being used, and they film what they see. It's simply the reality of what's happening every day. And those investigations have made major headlines and also resulted in pretty significant policy changes and new laws.
Yeah, I saw something where Canada's got like some of the worst laws around transporting animals or something like that.
That's a huge area. Yeah.
that's an international focus as well, isn't it?
Definitely, definitely. Around the world, one of the worst periods of any animal's life is that, a farmed animal at least, is the day that they're transported to the slaughterhouse. It's extremely stressful because they're typically crowded into trucks, usually, and especially in Canada, without any climate control. So they're open to the elements like Canada's extreme winters and extreme summer heat as well.
And then add to that, you're just barreling down the highway with the wind whipping in and
That's right, we're talking about open-sided vehicles.
Brutal cold. So,
Yeah.
An expose just came out in Australia on live transport on ships specifically, and so they had a whistleblower on a ship filming up close the disasters and the death toll.
yeah,
And
they're
so,
cooked alive.
yeah, and
What do you-
The
it's just so
temperatures-
hot.
Yeah.
It's a 3-week journey from Australia to the Middle East where these sheep were being sent. And on one hot day, I believe 1,200 sheep died just from heat exhaustion.
Wow.
It was that hot.
And what's exciting is that these stories are finally going mainstream. And so this was a huge piece in Australia. The world is paying attention. And even a few years ago, it was a lot harder for us to get these stories out into the mainstream. But that's happening now. We're seeing it in New York Times and all the major players.
Thank you, social media, huh?
As well,
It's making it very difficult to ignore.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, Joanne, so you mentioned you've been to over 60 countries.
Almost 60 countries. I've stopped counting finally.
So now, I mean, how long have you been focused on animal well-being?
Yeah, it's been over 15 years now, and photojournalists are always looking for their particular story, something they can shoot, something that's unique, and I was always very interested in animal issues and had a concern for animals, and I realized that I could photograph the invisible animals, as I call them, not so much the wildlife, not so much pets, but those we have a really close relationship with, but we fail to see them, fail to consider them. So animals we eat primarily, animals in fur farms, animals used in research labs, animals used in entertainment, and so on. So that has been a focus for about 15 years. And now I used to do commercial photography to fund the documentary work, but now it's fully funded through monthly donors, which is great.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, you've got these two books, right? The ones we held up already. Do you do other stuff besides these books? Like, what were you doing before? Were these going out in newspapers or magazines, or?
Yeah, it's a many-tiered thing, the We Animals Project. So certainly the books are not just the focus, because the books will only get into the hands of a few people who are really, really interested. And so social media is a big component. Multimedia, we shoot film. We do investigative work worldwide, and images are used in hundreds of campaigns worldwide. I make everything that I shoot available for free on our archive. So anyone who's helping animals can go and type in, keyword gorilla Africa or pig Canada, and get images that they can get high res for their campaign use.
Wow.
Yeah.
And have you always been, I presume you're a vegan?
Yeah, 15 years now.
Okay, so what happened that
What happened?
made you
Well,
cross over?
It is funny. My mom had 10 chickens at her house in the country, and they were layer hens, and I got to know them the way, like, they were hanging around the way the cats and the dogs were, and I started feeling really uncomfortable.
They weren't?
They were.
Oh, they
They were
were.
just out and about, just like the dogs.
Right.
And I started feeling really uneasy about eating chicken because, these little guys had great personalities, and I was like,
Yeah.
oh no, there's nothing, separating these animals and their sentience and their intelligence. And I thought, oh, what am I going to eat? Vegetarian? That's so hard. But my conscience would not let me eat animals anymore, so I became vegetarian, and I got more interested in animal issues and animal sentience. And so I wanted to do an internship at Farm Sanctuary, but you have to be vegan on the premises out of respect for the animals. And I thought, oh, vegan, that's so hard. Well, I really want to go to Farm Sanctuary, so I'll be vegan for a month, and then I will come back and revert to vegetarianism. But on day one of being vegan, that was April 1st, 2003, I had not harmed anyone. And it was a full day. I hadn't harmed anyone, and I felt so good.
That's a good feeling, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's an amazing feeling. Yeah.
I was like, okay, I'm totally in line with my ethics here. Spiritually, I feel good. And now there's no way that I can go back. So it was Farm Sanctuary that transformed me.
Well, after our last guest, there's no excuse at all.
That's right.
I know, we're not starving. We
Still,
Oh, the food just gets better and better.
Yeah.
So what's the Unbound Project?
Unbound is about women on the front lines of animal advocacy. Everywhere I go, there are women leaders in the movement, and but they're not really represented as such. Often there is a man in a leadership role, and but for the most part, historically, the more I looked into it, I saw that historically it was 60 to 80% women who are leading this movement. And so that is worth celebrating and highlighting. And so Unbound celebrates women, and we tell the individual stories of people, whether they are a gorilla vet in Uganda or a lawyer. We are featuring Camille in the project. All sorts of interesting people.
No.
well, you met Sandra Higgins. She was one of the women who was featured.
Yeah, that's right.
There you go.
So what is it? Okay, so all right. So you're celebrating women doing
Yes.
this work.
Yes.
Like, for example, we've got Camille here. What does that mean? We've featured them.
Oh, it's on our social media and on our websites. We do an article with photos, and we hope that this will be a book in a couple of years. And I also, actually, most of the time these days I'm doing speaking engagements, so I'm less doing fewer shoots and more speaking, and these stories end up in my presentations as well. So everyone I speak to gets to meet all of these fascinating women.
Well, that's great. Gives you lots of subject matter to work with.
It's kind of endless. If I didn't do a book in 2 years, I could probably shoot this for the rest of my life and be very happy doing it.
So when you go speaking, who do you usually go speaking to, and is that it? I mean, just in terms of the presentations, are you only telling the stories of these women?
No. The presentations basically introduce people to the invisible animals, and so I tell the stories. things that I've seen in investigations worldwide, fur farms, pig farms, and then I tell the stories of rescue and redemption because it's really nice to have a balance. I don't want people to leave my talks feeling miserable, just feeling enlightened and empowered. And so that's what the talks are about. And then the women feature like as a portion of the talk. I'm speaking mostly at universities. I used to speak at veg fests all the time, but I'm trying with all of my might just to reach people who I wouldn't normally reach. So students, journalism students and photography students especially are my priority because they are influencers really. And I want them to take up the camera and the pen for these topics as well.
And so, since you've been doing this for 15 years, what kind of changes have you seen?
Well, we can both speak to that. I mean, there are a lot of changes and they're never happening as quickly as we would like. But as I mentioned earlier, these stories are way more in the media now than they ever have been. We just can't turn a blind eye anymore. And Camille's group is also responsible for that.
Yeah. I think one thing that the animal rights movement in general has done really well in the last decade, in the last 15 years, is making these issues really difficult to ignore. There are major media stories, the rise of vegan restaurants, the rise of animal rights protests. They're very visible, and I think that individuals are transforming their lives as a result. We are seeing better laws, slowly but surely, and I think that will speed up as the movement continues to grow.
And the movement has grown laterally, really. I mean, we used to be doing the same kind of things all the time, but now we're neuroscientists and we're lawyers, we're running sanctuaries, we're chefs. So
We're everywhere.
Yeah, we're everywhere.
We're coming for you,
And
Hugh.
it's fun too, right? And it's fun. I mean, this is a really joyful thing. It's
Yeah.
exciting. It's a really exciting thing to be doing at this point in history. I mean, we're creating history, we're changing history,
And we're on the right side of history.
Yeah.
Do you know, it's funny because things that I thought would never happen in my lifetime are actually happening right now.
Yeah.
So
Like
it's-
what?
Well, just even people being vegan, things like that.
Well, here's one example. Whoever thought that Ringling Brothers Circus, which
There
has
you
been
go.
around for over 130, which had been around for over 130 years, would close their doors because people just wouldn't pay the ticket price anymore to go to it. That's happened last year, and their elephants are no longer forced to perform in those shows, and they're completely done.
Well, it was just too easy for people to turn a blind eye to these things. But now, like you said, with social media right in your face, they can't really just let on like it's not happening. And they do something about it. So.
Yeah.
Now, Camille, as a lawyer, so did you always see yourself, when you chose going into law, did you see yourself doing this kind of legal work?
I did. I went to law school specifically to be an animal rights lawyer. At the time, which was about 10 years ago, the field was almost non-existent in Canada. There was really only one lawyer who had been a pioneer and had done that work for quite some time, but there still was no large-scale national organization and very few court cases being fought. So I looked at that and I knew I wanted to contribute to animal protection in some way, and I thought, well, the law is interesting to me. Why don't I pursue this path and see what we can build? So I'm happy to see that a decade later we now have Animal Justice, so a national animal law organization. We have laws being passed all the time and new legislation being introduced. There's actually a bill in the Senate right now that would ban aquariums from keeping whales and dolphins in captivity anywhere in the country.
Yeah, can't wait for that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it'll happen. That one's gonna happen.
Yeah.
So you're an animal rights person first and a lawyer second.
Yeah, that's fair to say. I didn't get into law because I love the law. I got into it because I love animals.
So now the organization Animal Justice, is that something that you founded, or?
No, I wasn't the founder. Well, I was just starting law school when my colleague Nick Wright founded it, and he's another brilliant lawyer. And so we're celebrating our 10-year anniversary this year, actually, and it's been really fun to reflect on everything that we've all managed to achieve together. It's an organization full of lawyers across the country. There's a lot of support in law schools as well. So we're seeing right now animal law clubs in pretty much every campus across the country. And this whole new next generation of animal rights lawyers is growing up right now. And so I'm excited about what we've done in 10 years, but even more excited for the next decade to come.
So what are some of the things that you have over the last 10 years achieved?
Well, one of my proudest moments is that we were able to intervene in a court case at the country's top court, the Supreme Court of Canada. And it was one of the first times that they'd heard from an animal rights group at all as an intervener. So it was a case about the sexual abuse, unfortunately, of a dog. And the case didn't end up going exactly the way we wanted it to, but the Supreme Court did say for the very first time that animals matter. And for society, protecting them is a fundamental value. So that kind of statement, when it comes from a court, is the type of thing that filters down to other judges, to other courts, and sets the tone for the way the law should consider animals.
So what do you guys see? I mean, I know you work together from different kind of sides of the same agenda, if I can say that. What do you see happening over the next, or what would you like to see happen over the next 10 years?
Well, one thing that I think Canada is ripe for is overhauling our animal protection laws. We actually are typically considered to have the worst animal protection laws in the Western world.
Proud moment for Canada.
It's shocking. We think of ourselves as such a compassionate, polite, kind place for people and for animals, but the reality is far from that. Our animal cruelty laws are just atrocious. I don't know if you heard recently about the case of a pot-bellied pig in British Columbia. Molly is her name. She was adopted from the SPCA after being rescued from an abusive situation, and her new adoptive owners, just a few weeks after they brought her into their home, they decided to kill and eat her. And unfortunately, that's completely legal under Canadian law because we treat animals like property.
Wait, she was supposed to be a pet?
She was supposed to be a pet.
She had come
been.
from a really bad position, and then she was put up for adoption. She had to be kind of rehabilitated and everything where she was, put up for adoption, trusted to their care, and
So what's happening with that finally?
Well, it's heartbreaking, but nothing can be done. You can't prosecute the people who killed and ate
It's
Molly.
legal.
It's completely legal. In this country, pigs are treated like property with few legal rights that are any different from this coffee mug right here. It's really a travesty. And that's not how we as Canadians and global citizens think about animals. We all know that the coffee table and the pot-bellied pig are two different things, but our law doesn't get that yet.
So what would have happened if they had adopted from a shelter a dog and then ate the dog a few weeks later?
It would be the exact same thing. You can kill and eat a dog, you can kill and eat a cat.
there would just be more uproar about it, but it is still legal.
Yep,
So-
that's right.
Now,
That's
don't corporations have more rights than animals in that regard? Like, isn't, when you get looking into the Non-Human Rights Project, and they're considered actual entities, like I'm not putting it right.
I know what you're
Yeah,
trying
yeah.
to say, Sue, for sure. So under the law, animals don't have standing. They can't go into court. They can't fight a court
Right.
case on their own behalf.
Yeah,
Because they're not considered persons, which
that's, yeah.
persons doesn't mean a human being. That's just a legal
Thanks,
term.
Camille.
Yeah, it's just a legal term that means you have the ability to have a legal voice. And so because animals aren't considered persons, they can't go to court, but corporations can.
Yeah,
Municipalities
exactly.
can. All of these bodies that don't have any interests or can't feel
Exactly,
pain,
yeah.
they have more rights.
I should just have you follow me around and just speak for me all the time. Like, what's that again? Yeah, Camille, please.
What's the personhood thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I think Molly's case to me really drives home how our laws are so out of sync with what society expects. People
Yeah.
across the country were just outraged and
Shocked.
shocked. Yeah.
But, some good will come from it because people were unaware that this was perfectly legal. to
But I
just-
mean, what would the law be? What would you like to see the law be in that particular case?
Well, it's a debate that society needs to have. There's a question about whether we should be eating animals at all. I don't think that politicians in this country are ready to pass laws saying, no, we can't do that. I think that the law tends to track society's existing attitudes. So you wait until society is there, and then you pass a law to enshrine that. And so when you talk about whales and dolphins, people now don't think that they should be in tiny tanks in captivity. And that's why the time is right to pass a law getting them out of tanks. When it comes to a case like Molly's, I think that we need to start having a debate about this and talk about why we all felt so passionate and outraged that Molly was eaten and maybe not other animals, and start to think about ways that we can incorporate stronger protections.
Well, because I hear, you see those ads, and anybody who knows pig knows that they're really smart and nice animals, right? They make great pets.
Yeah.
Or even if they don't make great pets, they're
Yeah,
still
doesn't matter.
But
really
wait a sec, but don't they make great pets?
Great little family members.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, a lot of people would say that they do. Yeah, but
Yeah.
I mean, the pigs that I know who are living happy, rehabilitated lives are at sanctuary. You know, with lots of space and lots of ground they can dig up.
Well, even dogs. Sometimes I think in the city it's a tough life for a dog. They need some space to run around. They
Just like people, everyone needs a bit of
need
space and a bit of
natural
autonomy.
habitat, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so is there anything you guys are working on upcoming that you want to let people know about? Any new books, for example, or any exciting cases that you're working on?
Yeah, I have a book. It's myself and 15 photographers. It's called Photographers Against Wildlife Crime. So that comes out this May, debuting at Photo London in England. In Canada, as you know, we say London, Ontario, but for the rest of the world,
other London.
Yeah, exactly. So London, England. And We Animals is going to be growing. For a long time, it was me with a camera, and then we brought on Kelly, our filmmaker, Kelly Guerin. She's brilliant, really lucky to have her, but we'd like the team to grow so that we have more creative content, basically, more stories. And that's also why this year we're going to push for more funding so that we can have a bigger team doing more.
Now, how do you get your funding, and is there a way that people can contribute to your funding?
Yeah, thanks. It's through Patreon, which is an online platform. It's a way for people to donate monthly to creatives. And so we certainly fall into that category. And people can donate anywhere between $1, $5, $20, $100 a month. Right now we're at about $4,000 a month, but we need more to sustain this little team and to do all the traveling involved in telling stories and the editing and the production. So we're going to really start pushing.
I need to change over from Patreon to Patreon. I'm still a PayPal person.
Thank you so much. I know you've been so
I'm like
supportive.
probably the only PayPal person left. But
We have
I
about
will
a
change
dozen. We
over.
have about a dozen of you.
Oh,
but
okay.
Thank you. You've been so supportive.
I wasn't trying to do it for that reason. For you to say that, I keep saying I've got to change over to Patreon. So.
No, it's okay. It's whatever works for you.
So Joanne, what's the website or websites? And
So many websites.
I'm presuming there's links to your Patreon account from them?
Yeah, it's patreon.com/weanimals.
Okay.
And but the project, if people want to see We Animals as a whole, I would encourage them to go to weanimals.org. And if people want to use the archive and download images, which are free, it's weanimalsarchive.org.
Okay.
Yeah,
And what about the Unbound project?
unboundproject.org.
Okay. .org. And Camille, what's the website for your law firm?
We're animaljustice.ca, and we're a nonprofit actually, and not a law firm in the traditional sense. So instead of taking on clients, which would be pretty tough because animals have no money, we rely on donations from the public as well. So people are welcome to support us at animaljustice.ca. And we've recently launched a podcast as well.
Yes.
It's called Paw Order. I think it's the
and
best
Order.
name.
It's the best
And
name.
the intro's hilarious.
It's a little bit of a take on the Law and Order theme.
Amazing.
But our goal is to break down animal law in a way that people can understand, because legal terms and lawyer speak can be pretty indigestible. So we really break it down to lay people talk.
Well, you and Peter have such a good rapport, like good chemistry, and he's so entertaining.
He's
And
a funny guy.
passionate. Like
Yeah.
he gets right in there.
He gets riled up. That's
Yeah.
Peter Sankoff, my co-host. He's
Yeah.
a law prof at the University of Alberta.
So how often do you
He's
do
a
the
feisty
podcast?
guy.
Spicy. It comes out every 2 weeks on Fridays. So the last one was this past Friday. So we can expect one again next Friday.
And what was your topic this past Friday?
Last Friday, what was our topic? Oh, did
I
you
don't
listen?
know.
What's your next topic?
Oh, actually, our next topic is likely going to be live export. So,
Yeah,
like we were
timely,
talking
very
about,
Like, what does that mean?
well, it means
Well, we
animal
just-
transportation out of a country
Oh, yeah.
while they're still alive, which of course puts them at extreme risk of suffering, like on the boat in Australia where all the sheep
Extended
died.
suffering, like weeks.
I
Of
mean,
misery.
is that usually for food purposes?
Yeah, almost exclusively for food purposes. They will be transported to another region and then slaughtered there so that it's fresher or complies with local
Right.
customs or what have you.
But I mean, I can't believe, I mean, not that I'm, you'd think they'd even have, I mean, not that it's a good thing that they're re-slaughtered, but that who's ever doing the shipping has an incentive to keep them.
It's evil.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, on that particular ship, 2,400 animals died. That's a huge
Yeah.
number.
Yeah.
So, what kind
That's-
of profit are they making? Why is
Exactly.
why is this worthwhile in any way? Yeah,
No,
Yeah.
it just has to
yeah.
stop.
It just has to stop.
It's one of those things that's inherently cruel. You can't improve it. You can't put more vets on board. You can't fix the conditions. It's
Yeah.
just bad.
Okay. Any final thoughts you guys have? We pretty much gave out the contact information. Is there anything else you want to leave people with? No?
Well, I'm so happy that we're doing this. I mean, this is part of the movement, and we talked about the growth of the movement, and here we are sitting here as a team, you know, talking about how this is fun and fantastic and necessary and important in history. So, yeah, thank you. Thanks for having us on.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thanks.
It's. I was joking with Sue earlier today
Oh
because I
no,
thought,
what's he gonna say?
are we running out of vegan people?
Oh,
or people
I said,
who
are you kidding?
involved
These are the top
in the-
shelf people in the movement.
Yeah.
I was saying to him, because he's right into the whole Bitcoin thing and all this, I said, it'd be like you having some big Bitcoin guy on, and I'm like, who's this guy? Running out of people, you know, like, I just
Yeah.
have no idea, because they're completely different worlds, right? We
Yeah.
have,
Yeah.
don't, so you are meeting,
Well, that's great. You know what? I
Three.
kind of, I think, would love to have you guys back. I think next time we should interview them one at a time. That way we can kind of focus
Sure.
on
Sure.
each of
well,
them
it was
at a
all
time.
about time. I was worried about you
Oh,
catching
yeah.
a train and catching
Oh.
a meeting, you know.
Right.
Well,
so,
I'm sure we'll both love to come back again.
Yeah.
It was a blast.
That would be awesome. Actually, you could bring your podcast partner as
Oh,
well.
yeah.
Would be cool. And
He's hilarious. He really is.
and you
Yeah.
can tell us about your next book.
I can
or-
talk about the stories in We Animals and Captive,
That's
things,
right.
things I've seen, places I've been, people I've worked with.
It's limitless.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll have no trouble getting amazing vegan guests because there's so many great people out there
Yeah.
doing so much work these days. So
Okay, guys. Well, listen. Thanks for coming in today.
Thank
And
you.
Did you get some food?
Yeah, and I'll probably even like grab
That's
a
the
little bit more to
priority.
go.
I forgot my little lunch bag with the cold pack in it, but
I'm
oh,
glad
well,
I forgot
I'll
my
just-
lunch today.
Yeah,
Yeah. I'm full already.
Well,
Okay.
I meant to bring home the seconds to take home
Well,
with me.
you
I'm
might have to.
gonna take a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, they brought so much, right? No one will even notice if I like take a few ribs for myself.
No, I think that's okay.
Those ribs.
Oh, we have
my
some
gosh.
vegan popcorn over there as well.
Do you? I didn't
Yes.
see the
It's
vegan
Sue
popcorn.
approved. I had to
Right?
read everything. See,
Okay, so well, we're gonna
Good.
take a little break. Thank you guys
Thank
for
you.
doing
Thank
this,
you.
and hope that we can get you back here.
Great.
And we got Kevin Lahey coming on next.
Mr.
We're gonna find
Lahey.
out about undercover operations.
yep.
So that should be interesting. So we'll be right back
It
here on
will be.
thatchannel.com. All right, we're back. It's me, Hugh, and Sue is here, and that rhymes. And now we've got Kevin Lahey.
Which doesn't rhyme.
I don't rhyme.
That
No.
don't rhyme.
Nope. But lots to talk about.
Go
Kevin,
ahead, get the
'cause,
Mr. Lahey out of your
No,
system.
no,
You know
no,
you
no,
wanted
no. I didn't.
Oh, are you a
no.
fan?
Yeah.
I've heard about it. I've never watched an
You
episode.
haven't?
No, no.
You've never watched your dad on TV? What?
Yeah.
No.
I know about it though. I'm very
Well-
familiar. Everywhere I go in Canada, people
Mr.
say,
Lahey.
"Is your name really Lahey?"
Oh yeah.
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 Hey, can I say hi to my daughter?
Of course.
Which one? Hi, Catalea.
That one right there.
Catalea, Anna, and Bella. They're watching at home.
Oh, she's so gorgeous.
See, I know
Great.
I've never seen Trailer Park Boys, but I know about it.
You could just
I think
slide
it's
it-
spelled the
he's
same way too.
Recently deceased, isn't he?
I think he.
So
Yeah.
you could just slide right into the role now?
Oh,
No?
no thanks.
No?
Because you
Thanks
got
for
a
looking
different
out for
role,
me. Yeah.
right, Kevin? You're dealing with animal issues, and yeah, I mean, it's kind of we're going to talk about it. You did some undercover work. I want to find out about that, but first of all, I want to find out like what's your story and how you came to be so interested in animal welfare and get involved, you know, at a like a meaningful level.
Sure. Yeah, so in some sense, my story is unique because I spent 4 years, no, not 4 years, a little over 3 years, working undercover in factory farms in different countries. But in another sense, I don't think my story is that unique at all. I was raised as a meat eater. I was raised as a hunter. My father is Irish, so steak and potatoes, and my mother is Puerto Rican, so lots of meat coming from both sides of the family. And I was raised with dogs, and when I was a hunter, I shot and killed one deer, and it was the last time. I decided after that to never do it again. I just made the connection at that time, and then I took a course in philosophy where the professor was so patient with this class about the arguments for vegetarianism. Nobody was talking about veganism at the time. This was in 1999. But he provoked critical thought in me. And so for 3 years, from 1999 to 2002, I did nothing but think about it. And then in 2002, I watched a video called Meet Your Meat, and that's when I decided to become vegetarian. And then in 2010, I became an activist. So for many years, I was a silent vegan, as I call it often. I think, may I paint a picture? This is how I see the world of veganism and animal rights. If someone is walking down the street and they see a dog being beaten by a man, say with a club or for whatever reason, doesn't matter if it's his dog or not, and let's call it a puppy because I think that's
We
more.
all love puppies.
We all love puppies, and I think it's more relevant to make my point as well because animals are usually killed at a young age. I think in that case, if you're walking down and you see that, you have 4 options. You can pay him money, which is what the majority of society does. You can stay silent and not contribute to the violence that he's contributing. And that's what I call being a silent vegan.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can say something. You can say, hey, knock that off. I don't appreciate what you're doing to that dog. And you can stand up, and at least speak out. And that's what I call being an activist. And then the 4th option is to actually intervene. And that's what I would call direct action. And to get in between the dog and the abuser and hold him by the hand and say, enough. You're not going to do this anymore. I'm now in between the abuser and the victim. So somewhere along the line, I just realized that being vegan wasn't enough. And I made that connection when I was in Korea. I was a teacher for many years of my life. And while I was teaching in Korea, I saw a video of a dog being slaughtered online. And it was really emotional for me because I grew up with dogs and I love dogs. And I was a vegetarian at the time. And I knew that I wasn't going to eat dog meat, so I wasn't going to contribute to the suffering that I was watching. But that wasn't enough. It wasn't enough to just not contribute. I had to do more. And that's when I decided to start protesting, and I started protesting every single weekend. And thankfully my wife was patient. She was my girlfriend at the time, but she was patient enough to sacrifice weekends with me. And we did a silent protest, and we had petitions out there, and people would come by and sign. And we had big pictures and posters of,
Was this all in Korea?
Yeah, correct.
Oh.
All in Korea, in Seoul. Yeah, so you can imagine.
I mean, there's a whole cultural issue you got to get
Exactly.
over too, right?
I was called cultural imperialist many, many times. Yeah, a white guy with blue eyes telling the Koreans not to eat dog meat. But I thought that it had some legs, and I thought there was a real chance of a law being passed. And I still have friends in Korea who say that might happen actually this year. So that's exciting. And so that activism led to a full-time job with an organization called CARE, Coexistence of Animal Rights on Earth. And then they offered me, well, it's sort of a long story how that happened, but
That's your best friend who...
yeah, AJ Garcia.
Right.
Yeah. He's like a brother to me. And so we went undercover together into Korea's dog meat industry, and we did that for over a year.
So wait a sec. I mean, first of all, I didn't know they had a dog meat industry.
in
Korea?
Korea. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was all on the down low. But I mean, how did you go undercover? I mean, did you go?
I just wore a mask. No, like a funny mask. Like a clown mask. No.
Sure.
So we went under the story that we were buyers. We were from a different country, looking to invest.
Right.
And so we were welcomed in with open arms under that story. It was hard to do, as you can imagine. AJ, who you just mentioned, who I call like a brother, was actually my brother in the story that we portrayed. So we said the two brothers from Venezuela were coming to. So that's how we infiltrated the dog meat industry in South Korea, and we spent more than a year doing that. We documented every single part of the industry from birth all the way to slaughter in the marketplace, and no one had ever done that before. And so we were quite proud of the accomplishments that we had made. And then that led to undercover work in the USA, Mercy for Animals. Nathan Runkle and Matt Rice saw our footage, the work that we did in South Korea, and they offered AJ and I both a job in the USA to do the same thing in factory farms throughout the United States.
Yeah, I didn't know how that came about. I didn't know how you got hooked up with Mercy for Animals.
So first, can you just tell us a little bit more about the dog meat industry in Korea? And were you able to videotape this?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Did you have like spy cams and stuff? Or,
We did. So I can tell you that.
Yeah, here we go. He's not, you won't say exactly what.
Is he excited about the
Wait,
cameras?
just
'Cause
relax.
I know.
I want to hear him
Yes,
say what he's
right.
got to say.
Well, I will say that with Mercy for Animals, they use state-of-the-art technology, the same cameras that the FBI would use if they're going to conduct a sting operation. The best of the best. Pinhole cameras that are, almost impossible to detect. But when we did it in Korea, we had no proper training. And so we had to purchase things online that we found. I remember I had a tie. This tie is not a camera.
You're like
but
Maxwell Smart or something, right?
if you looked at it, it was kind of obvious, and it was kind of clunky, and it had this big battery in the tie. But there was a little camera in the tie, and then I also had glasses that had a camera in the glasses.
You're stumbling around in the dark. They're like, why doesn't this guy take his sunglasses off?
Glasses.
Oh.
But yeah, we tried to be as 007 about it as we could. But given the materials we had to work with, we did the best we could. in the end, it turned out that our iPhones were the best use of taking footage, just because the camera equipment in our iPhone was so much better than any of these other hidden cameras that we had on our bodies. That's not the case for Mercy for Animals. You know, once I got to the USA, we had really, really good cameras to work with. But in Korea, yeah, we ended up using our iPhones more than anything else. So
So I'm just curious, like, how big is the dog meat
yeah, so
industry?
it is quite big. Unfortunately, per capita, it's the worst in the world for dog meat consumption. So per capita, people in Korea eat more dog meat than anywhere else on the planet. If you just look at number of dogs slaughtered for dog meat consumption, then China is still number one, but per capita, South Korea is the leader.
I mean,
Is it more in the rural areas, or
No,
does it, it's
absolutely
right in the
not.
cities?
It's absolutely everywhere.
like, I mean, do they have farms?
Yes.
Like dog farms?
Yes.
And they're breeding
Factory
the-
farm
the-
dogs, correct.
for meat.
Correct.
And I mean, if you go to a butcher in Korea, you can get a dog
Yep,
steak or whatever.
absolutely. Yes, you can.
And
You
it's-
can have them slaughtered right in front of you, and you could take the carcass home.
And
The conditions are horrific, and how they're killed is even more horrific. I mean, a lot of them aren't they boiled alive? Well, that happens too, I guess, even with pigs here.
So there have been other investigations of which I have not been a part. For example, I know Mark Ching has done a lot of investigations in China, and he has seen the worst of the worst.
Yeah.
Dogs with their. My daughter's watching,
Yeah,
so I
okay.
don't want to get into the
Yes,
details.
okay.
But you can imagine it's really, really terrible. What we saw was very, very hard to see, but not quite as bad as that. There were a couple of places that still used rope as a hanging method, but I'd say about 90-something% would use electricity to shock them first, and then they'd be hoisted up, and their necks
Yeah.
would be,
Yeah,
you know,
we gotcha.
yeah.
wow.
So yeah, it is still ongoing. It is still a problem in South Korea. But the good news, and this is why I'm optimistic, is it looks really good in terms of statistics. Now, for the first time ever, the majority of Koreans are in favor of a ban on the industry. And as the younger generation becomes more prominent, and they have access to YouTube and all these videos, and I'd like to think that the work we did has some influence on that. We see now that Koreans in general are not in favor of dog meat. It still does go on, unfortunately, but I think it's just on the horizon. We're almost there to see a ban in, like I said, the country that consumes the most dog meat per capita in the world.
I'm just curious, is there what's the story in North Korea?
I've never been there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a very different scenario there. I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, it's a different country altogether.
Right.
Yeah.
So then when you went to the States, what was the nature of your work?
So when I first started, I ended up working in an egg farm. But I guess I could say now that they became suspicious of me.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, and that's the number one concern that everyone has as an undercover investigator. You're always thinking it at every second, you know, even when you're sleeping at nighttime, you're thinking, do they know? Do they know? Do they know? So you're always aware of that, and I simply made a mistake. It was my first time trying to work undercover in the USA, and so they became suspicious of me, and that didn't work out. But I did end up working successfully through a bunch of different cases, one of which was a hog farm, one of which was a hog slaughterhouse, another which was a chicken slaughterhouse. And all those cases take a minimum of 4 months of employment-based investigation.
So what happens? You get a job at these places?
Correct. Yeah.
Are you also getting paid by your spy masters?
Spy. Yeah, that's
Yeah?
correct. Yeah, there's compensation from
Oh,
both. Yeah.
okay. And I'm just curious, what kind of mistake did you make that they kind of caught on to you?
Yeah, I think I'm not allowed to
All
say.
right.
It's
All right.
For legal reasons.
Oh, okay.
I probably shouldn't say.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. And so what did you discover? Or what was...
But I can tell you how it went down
Yeah.
after they found out. The big boss came to the facility and they took me into a room and they said, "We have reason to believe that," and then they cited other cases that have been exposed.
I see.
And then I said, "Okay, I think it's probably best if I leave."
Sweat beading up
okay.
on your brow.
Yeah.
But in all circumstances, we never break the law. That's first and foremost.
Okay.
So,
So it's not like the CIA.
I don't know about that.
But,
How do you know?
I watch some YouTube videos. How does anyone know anything?
The internet.
So I'm just curious. So what were you guys like? How would you choose who you would investigate, and why were you investigating these particular operations?
Completely random. I think that's the best answer. Completely random. There is no motive, and the sad reality. I just had this conversation with a friend. He said, "Don't you guys cherry pick the worst of the worst in terms of the footage, smush it all together, and throw it out there, just to make it seem like it's worse than it actually is?" And I'll be honest, I thought that way as well before I became an undercover investigator. And that was part of the reason I wanted to become an undercover investigator, because I was a philosophy major. I've always been obsessed with truth and being committed to the truth. So I wanted to know what it was really like. And I will say, how many people will listen to me and believe what I'm saying, but I will say every single facility that I have been to, there's no difference. They're all as horrible as you can possibly imagine in terms of the suffering and the misery that the animals go through. Our minds, the human mind cannot comprehend just how bad it is. We can't comprehend, the number 1 million, for example. Try 1 billion, and then try to extrapolate the suffering that each one of those animals endures over the course of their entire life. So I say it's worse than your worst imagination could possibly create. And so it doesn't matter where you go, to answer your question. It's just random. Everywhere you go, there's this suffering. Anytime they're exploiting animals for monetary gain, then you're going to see this kind of...
So they're just a commodity. They're not
Correct.
seen as a living sentient being. So
Now you had to, because you were working at these facilities, so you had to do some of the work. I mean, how did you deal with that?
Yeah, that's part of the heartbreak of being an undercover investigator. Clearly, I didn't do it because I wanted to be a farmer. I did it because I love animals, and I wanted to see them, free from suffering. And so sometimes it's our job, or we do what our boss tells us to do, or we lose our job. But I think if you're quick on your feet, so to speak, there are ways around doing certain things. You could say, I just don't feel good today. I don't feel like doing that. Do you mind or could you show me again? Things like that. But yeah, it's part of the reality of doing undercover investigations.
I mean, we've talked about it before too, that the other workers there who are not undercover, but they actually work there, in a sense, they're victims too, because they have to do they have to participate in the violence, the cruelty and that sort of thing. I mean, What was your sense of the other workers in these facilities?
Yeah, I'm glad you used the word violence, by the way, because I think that that's an accurate word to use. I have said many times, and I stand by this, there's a very small percentage of workers that are sadistic and are doing it for some kind of fun, so to speak, gratuitously. The vast majority of the workers that I've experienced have been just following orders, doing their job. And when a worker is pressed by time and there's a demand to get a job done, and then you throw into the mix animals who don't want to be slaughtered,
Yeah.
clearly. They don't
They're not
want to
very
go into...
cooperative, are
Yeah,
they?
exactly. So it makes the job very tough. Plus those jobs don't pay well. I think we should change that. I think that workers should actually be paid more. I think that the cost of labor should go up for these meat producers. Obviously, I think we should take animals out of the food supply, period. But to get there, we should take steps at a time. And so when you get workers that are paid a poor wage, working upwards of 60, 70 hours a week, and it's hard, very, very strenuous. Yeah, strenuous kind of work. And then, like I said, you throw animals into the mix that don't want to cooperate, rightfully so. Then you have a recipe for what you end up seeing in these undercover investigations.
So, they're involved in killing these animals. I mean, I can imagine, to some extent, it might be like to people who, and most people are sensitive to hurting other living beings, right? I'm just thinking, maybe it's like a soldier in wartime. I'm just wondering if you saw
Really
any.
good analogy.
Do any of these workers experience PTSD or other kind of psychological issues?
I've never been in war, but I can imagine it's something like it, in terms of what I experienced, at least, because I don't see that much of a difference between, in all the ways that are relevant, between animals and humans. If they were humans being killed in these ways, then I probably would have felt similar emotions. So yeah, I do believe that other workers also feel it, but for the most part, the workers see the animals differently than we do here.
Well, they become
'Cause-
desensitized, right?
Yeah,
Doing
correct.
it all the time, right? I'm just wondering though too, because even myself, right? Because I told Sue some stories, my dealings with animals and stuff like that. But I'm just wondering also, as we see so many more people becoming vegan, it's rising in the collective consciousness.
It's
I
got
think.
some legitimacy now, kind of.
Well,
with the more people
but I'm
that-
just wondering if maybe human consciousness is rising.
We're awakening.
Where humans at one point were quite dead to this, or quite insensitive to the, the fate of the animals that, because we've had animals in our food supply for forever, as far as I know, right? I wonder if you think that our collective consciousness is rising to the point where more and more people are just so much more sensitive to the suffering of the animals.
Yes, absolutely, 100%. And I think a lot of that has to do with social media and the ability to post a YouTube video that reaches literally millions of people. We didn't have that technology. When was YouTube launched? In 2005? You know what I mean? I was alive then. I remember before 2005. So how did you reach that many people with footage? Maybe a movie, maybe a documentary back then. It was much more difficult to do. You needed much more funding. But now you can just put it on YouTube, share it amongst your friends, and lots of people will see it. And worldwide, not just in one country. So absolutely, I believe that consciousness is increasing. We are becoming more and more aware. I also believe that we have more alternatives, as Yamchops provided all this great food. I love Yamchops.
Did
by
you
the
get
way.
fed too, by the way?
I did,
You did.
yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
I
yeah.
think we're becoming human again. We've kind of lost our humanity for a long
Maybe
time.
that's
and now
it.
I don't know. I think so.
Okay, go ahead.
So I was just going to say, I think that the two most important pieces of the animal rights slash liberation movement at this day and age are undercover investigators and food scientists. So
Oh, yeah.
people like Yamchops who start a food business like that to create an alternative. We need more and more and more of those because people want to go or try vegan, but they don't know where to turn. And so the more alternatives we have in the market, and Yamchops is perfect because it's so similar to conventional traditional meat that you wouldn't even notice the change in your
you wouldn't
diet.
notice.
You know, and so yeah, and I also think undercover investigators because we need to keep showing the world what's happening. And so if anyone is watching or listening, you think that you could be an undercover investigator, please reach out to me. Maybe you know someone who would be a good fit. I could put you in touch with the right person.
Now, are you out of that now?
Oh yeah,
It-
yeah. No, I
it's-
wouldn't do this.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do this.
Especially showing your face all over everywhere now, right?
Yeah, correct, exactly.
And is it just because, I mean, you can only do that for so long and then you just got to move on to other things?
There are undercover investigators who are breaking that conception. They're still going,
Yeah.
and I don't know how they're doing it, to be honest. But yeah, for the most part, the shelf life of an undercover investigator is limited because eventually they get wise
right.
to who you are.
Did you ever do any in Canada?
No, I did not.
No.
No, just in the U.S. and in Korea.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now you've got the. Now, what are you working on now? I know you've got a podcast and stuff. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so it's called the Live Vegan Podcast. I started it about 6 months ago with a good friend of mine named Ben Lahey, who he and I have a lot in common, and we take the whole animal rights slash liberation approach very logically, and I love talking to him about current events and issues pertaining to the vegan movement. And every episode we have a very inspiring guest on the show, and we come up with practical tips for people to be a more effective activist. So I think it's helpful for a lot of people who want to do more for the movement but aren't quite sure how they could fit in. My message is this: no matter what you're good at, whether you're a painter or you're a social media person or some kind of artist or you're a good public speaker or writer, whatever your skill set is, it can be applied to the animal rights movement. And so we just try to inspire people to take that step forward and do as much as they can. We actually had Camille and Joanne on the show in prior episodes, so it's funny that
At the same time?
no, we
No,
separately.
we are the
See?
pioneers here with having them on the couch at the same time.
So,
Which we'll do differently next time.
Yes, that's right. Well, I'm sensitive to everyone's time today.
No, that was great.
but those episodes are available on. It's called the Live Vegan Podcast. You can find it on Facebook.
Spell it so that people.
Livegan. So it's like live and vegan, but you combine
Mushed,
them.
yeah.
Mushed together.
Live again.
Live again.
Live again.
Live again.
No, we don't want to call it that.
No, we don't. But
Live again and again and again.
And where can they find that?
Well, there's the Live Vegan Podcast on Facebook, but I can also give you the link so that if somebody doesn't want to go through Facebook, you can just see all the. I don't have the link memorized.
Is it on Apple or something?
Yeah, it's on iTunes as
Yeah.
well. Yeah,
Okay,
so if you have iTunes,
so
you can just
people
search.
subscribe
Yep.
there.
Yep.
Now, how often do you do that?
Once a week.
Once a week. Okay.
Yeah. So I actually
you're doing it today,
have
right?
a podcast
Yeah, that's right.
in 1 hour
This
and
was
20
why I
minutes.
was trying to get everyone
See?
out of here.
And we're on track.
Yeah,
Right?
very good. Ben's
So-
great. I work with him on Nation Rising, which
Yeah.
we'll talk more about
Yeah.
another
So
day.
that's coming up this summer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm excited about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is it? Should
Just
we talk
gave a
about what that
little
is
plug.
now? Should we talk about that now?
Yes.
Well-
Well, no, let's stick with the cat.
Oh, okay.
Don't worry, I will definitely.
So what do you, or who do you have on your podcast today?
Today it will be George Martin. He has been dubbed the Slayer of Carnist Logic. He's the guy who comes up with the most relevant and logical and succinct answers to the common excuses.
He's very clever.
He is, yeah. He has a website called Carnism Debunked. I'm pretty sure that's the name of his website. And every excuse you've ever heard, humans are on top of the food chain, or my blood type doesn't allow me to go vegan.
Oh,
all,
yeah.
all those
The
excuses.
plants' rights
Right,
activists
plants
come out in
have
full
feelings.
force. Yeah.
So he has very relevant and succinct answers to all of those. So we're going to be talking to him about that today.
Okay, that sounds good. Now, besides the podcast, what else are you involved in these days?
Well, I'm actually working on a YouTube channel as well. So it will be educational and hopefully inspirational. I'd like to target not just the vegan community, but also those who are not yet vegan, maybe veg curious, and just give them my perspective as an undercover investigator, what I saw firsthand. And so a little bit of education as to what goes on in factory farms, but also help inspire people to let them realize that every meal counts.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm very political. I try not to talk about politics when I talk about animal rights and liberation, but I believe every meal is like a vote, and every vote counts. So we get 3 votes a day, we get 21 votes a week, and every single one of those votes could mean the difference between a vegan business going out of business or staying in business and multiplying. So each one of us has so much power in our actions, behind our actions, and all of those votes collectively are very, very, very powerful. So I know sometimes it's hard to think I can do anything or I can make a difference in this world, but absolutely we can. In the United States, you have to wait 4 years to vote for a president. What is it, 5 years here? I always get a different answer when we talk about Canada.
I think it's 4.
Is
think
it
it's
4?
4.
4 or
yeah.
5. 4.
I don't think anyone knows.
Yeah.
Is it?
We know what it is in the States, but not in here in our
Well, they
own
usually
country.
call it early anyways, but
But you don't have to wait that long when it comes to food.
Yeah.
Every single time we sit down, you get to cast a ballot. You get to vote for a more peaceful, a more sustainable world. So
Very
and a
nice.
healthier world.
a healthier world.
Right?
Yeah,
Definitely.
absolutely.
Would you say this is your life's work?
1,000%. I'm
Okay.
all in. Yeah.
And what would you like to ultimately accomplish with this work that you're doing? What kind of world would you like to see?
I'm a firm believer that in my lifetime, and maybe that means I have to live really, really long. I'm trying my best to stay healthy. That we will see laws outlawing the consumption of animals. I want animals to be taken out of the food supply completely. And I think we'll start in certain countries first,
Yeah.
but I think in our lifetime, we'll see at least a few of those laws passed. And eventually, the world will go vegan.
Wow,
Yeah,
cool.
quite a statement, I know.
Well, I
It's
mean,
gonna happen. It's already happened.
I think I think we're on the way there,
Yes.
right? I mean, even that, what you're saying is happening in Korea, probably to some extent at least,
And who
as a
would have
result of
ever
your
envisioned
efforts,
that?
right?
Yep. Every victory counts, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, Kevin. Well, this has been great to meet you and have this conversation.
Thank you.
Where can people? Do you have a website?
I do. I'm actually working on a website where I'm going to connect the YouTube video that I just mentioned and also connect the podcast. So I don't have it yet, but you can follow me on Facebook. It's Kevin Lahey. I also the podcast. We'll have lots of information there about what's coming up next. Also Instagram, Kevin S. Lahey, and I run livevegan.ca on Instagram as well. So I think we have like 30,000 followers there, and it's memes and funny quotes and very
So
food-friendly pics. You know, all vegan, of course.
Will the channel be named Live Vegan as well? Is it going to be a kind of a spin-off or a branch of
Possibly.
that? Oh,
Possibly. It might be different. I'm not quite sure yet.
okay.
Yeah, but
LIVEGAN.
that's right. Live vegan. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a website.
And
right
it tells
now.
you
It is a
exactly what
website
it
right
wants
now,
you to
yeah.
do.
So I'm sure you're gonna have
Livevegan.ca is a website.
All
yeah.
your new developments will be announced
Correct,
on there,
yeah.
so people can go there,
Yeah.
find out whatever you're doing now.
Absolutely.
Living vegan.
That's right. But thank you for having me on the show. Everyone that you had on today was quite the lineup.
Yeah.
Those are all
Top tier.
warriors
I told you.
for the
top
animals.
I know,
tier.
and we're not even anywhere near the bottom of the barrel
No
yet.
way. Nope,
Right.
no way. I'm just bringing all the cream. I guess I'm not allowed to say that, right?
Yeah, you could, no, not that kind of cream.
No, not that kind.
Cashew cream.
Cashew
cashew
cream of the
cream.
crop.
We'll be the cashew cream.
You are the cashew
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be called the cashew cream. Yeah.
Great.
You're
Thank you.
welcome.
Okay, well, thanks, Kevin.
Appreciate it.
And
Honored to be here.
it's been great to have you here. I think that's it for the show, Sue.
That's it.
But it's been great. And we're right on time. And we got to kind of relax and spend as much time with
Yeah.
Kevin as we wanted to. So,
Dragged it right out.
And he's going to make it to the Live Vegan podcast on time today. So that's
Live-
awesome.
Yeah. We have 5 extra minutes. You guys want to talk? I'll go.
Yeah.
Well,
You guys can
let's just wrap this
wrap
up,
up.
and then we can.
One more, one
put-
more to your daughter.
Oh,
yeah?
if she's still watching.
Yeah.
Hi, Galilea. Mwah. Daddy's on TV. She was excited this morning. I said, it's going to be my first time on live TV. So she gave me a big hug and a kiss, and she said she would be watching.
Aw, she's so sweet.
Very cool. Okay, so let's wrap the show up. Thanks everybody for tuning in, and let's go heat up that vegan meat and
Or us.
and
There's a lot of Yamchops
Yeah.
left in the back. Absolutely.
Yow!
Yeah.
Okay, so thanks everybody. We'll see you next time. Thatchannel.com.
Bye, guys.